And welcome back. We just finished doing a bunch of knowledge on the construction tab, and let's go to the production tab. The production tab is the one where you're producing all your equipment for your Army, your Navy, and your Air Force. There's a lot of information here. This also, you'll notice that a lot of these ones will show, like this one will show how much resources you have a surplus or deficit of. It gives you the same information over here. -5 to 8537 -3. It just gives you the breakdown over here with how it's arriving at those numbers. This one, it's just saying, oh, okay, well, we have a shortage of 5 of this, and we have a shortage of 3 of this. Now, you'll notice that we have 19 military factories, and it's currently got 9 assigned. So if I look, there's 4 there, there's 1 there, there's 1 there. So that's 5, 6, and 2 is 8, and 1 is 9, which is the 9 that are currently assigned. We have 10 free ones that we can put out. We can add them to these ones, or we can put them on other things. Now, one of the things that there's a lot of information on this tab too, actually. Besides this first line, which is telling our surplus or deficit of resources, we have this. This tells us our dockyard output, which tells us our bonus to production for naval output, our bonus to production for factory output, so how much our military factories are giving us. This is our production efficiency cap. So no matter how much production there is, there's a cap level of 50% of it that you can actually use. Some of the text that we can take can increase that. There's other things that can sometimes increase it as well, like taking a lower difficulty level. If you take civilian difficulty level at the beginning of the game, you get plus 30% to your cap, so you start with 80% right off the bat. So your production will be much higher. There's the efficiency retention. This matters when you switch something from one thing to another. So if I take a factory from here and drop it down and then assign it somewhere else to, let's say, airplanes, it's going to lose a certain amount of production because the components and things that are built for airplanes are probably significantly different than those for infantry equipment. But if I, let's say, researched infantry equipment 2 and I go ahead and I swap this one out from infantry equipment 1 to infantry equipment 2, all 4 of these factories that are assigned, they're going to lose a little bit of efficiency, but it's not full because, guns still have barrels and they still have triggers and they still have stocks, and, a certain amount of the thing can be carried over. So you don't lose the full production off of it. One of the other things is you'll notice is it shows by this icon here how much of the production efficiency cap is utilized. So currently the production efficiency cap is 50.05%, and it's currently fully utilized. And when you start out at the beginning of the game, if I go ahead and take all my factories and assign them here, you'll notice that it dropped. The production efficiency is fine for these first 4, but these other ones that are added, these other 110 factories that got put in there, they don't get that same benefit. As a result, they still have the same efficiency cap, but you'll notice that the overall cap, these ones are still at full 50.05, but these 10 are not. So when it averages it out, it comes out to 21.45. And as these factories get tooled up to producing the equipment, they'll suddenly increase as well. Now if I bring this one down and put it back, it's allowing it to keep it. But if I go there, this factory is new. So it does know that these 5 are, attuned to this one. This one is attuned to this one. If I put another one on there, you'll notice that, this one's good, but this one's only partially. So between the two, now over time, this one gets better, and this one's already at cap. So this one will get up to cap. So this line will move along, and this value will increase. So instead of 5.05 per week, it'll actually go up. So you notice when we had 1 there, it was 4.21 per week. and adding a second factory didn't double it to 8.4, it went to 5.05, and that's because the second factory isn't at full efficiency yet. And you can see that in this red. There's a red, but as it's left there, it will build up, and this line will take up more and more and more, and eventually we'll get to the end, and both of these will be at full efficiency, which will be the 50.05 maximum efficiency, and then you would actually get to the 8.42 per week of the support equipment. So there's a lot of math in this. You'll also notice as we change and add more things, more of our resources get utilized. So if I suddenly go to this, it suddenly goes down to 17 free when it was 37 free, because each one of these takes up 2 steel to build. So it goes from 8 to 10 to 12 to 14, 16, 18, and so on and so forth. And you can leave free spaces so that when more military factories become available, it'll fill those spots first. Same thing here. If I put it on tanks, you see how it's at full for this one, but when I go to there, now for the 2 of them, it's 30.03. It didn't double the production right away. But if we keep it like that and go, a bunch of tanks, eventually it will start to build back up. So these other 10 factories will start becoming more efficient, and overall your production will slowly incrementally increase for your light tank 1s. Then when you switch your production over from light tank 1s to light tank 2s, you can carry forward all of these ones, and a certain amount of production gets lost in the efficiency, but not all of it. It doesn't drop completely to 0, because they still need treads, they still need the hull, and some of the pieces are the same. The turret gun, if it's using the same gun as the past one, it may, they can use the same barrel. Like there's a lot of overlap. So you can build, and you'll notice that there's a few different ways. You can just click around, you can click where you want it. You can use the plus and the minus to get rid of them that way. You can delete something altogether off of the thing, but if you do that, you'll lose this efficiency. So if I get rid of this L3 completely and go and add it back, I now have a factory on the L3, and I put it back where it was over here. You'll notice we don't have the 50.5 anymore. So you don't want to be deleting something and then adding it back if you can help it, because you lose that efficiency bonus that you start with right off the bat for these things. Some of the other things you'll notice here that you can say, I want to show or hide. I don't want to see my tanks. I don't want to see anything that costs this. I don't want to see anything that isn't up to date. I don't want to see anything I'm stockpiling. There's different sort of show hide buttons. I never use them, but they are there if you want to use them. What else? If you want to build new things, this will show all the different things that are available to build from artillery and guns. So there's that, and also trains. Trains are in there too. Support equipment. You can actually build multiple groupings of the same thing. So you could have a support equipment that's on there, and you can put another support equipment on. And you can actually have 2 different support equipments being built. And you could even have them go like this, so that when this caps out, it then carries on, and you can end up having 30 being built. Now this one's going to be much slower at 3.65 per month compared to 1.68 per day, but the cumulative amount will be the total of these 2, and when we get to this tab over here, logistics, it'll show you that the production will be according to that level. Tanks, this is where all your tanks will show. You have the ability to create variants in here, so you can spend army experience. Like right now it's showing you have 0, but if we wanted to increase the reliability of this tank by 8%, by 16%, by 20%, you can give it +3, and it would cost us 45 army experience. And we could create a model and give it whatever we could call it, the L3A, for instance, or the L3B, or whatever name you want to get, and you could give it a plus enhancement to the main gun. You know, give it 5 enhancements. You could give it 5 enhancements to every one of these things if you wanted. If that was going to cost you 400 army experience, so it's going to cost you a lot to design a tank like this. And even with all of these benefits, you know, the hard attack goes up by 2, piercing goes up by 2.5, your armor goes up by 2.5, and your soft attack goes up by 1.9, and that's all you get. Your reliability is still 80. Yeah, your armor is slightly better. 12.5 is better than 10, but realistically, when a next level light tank 2 comes along and it has a piercing of 15 from its gun, your 12.5 armor, you just wasted a whole bunch of money getting armor of +5. Like your resource of XP was just wasted for that. So sometimes this can be useful for like a few things. Like I like having reliability up to 100 if I can help it with my vehicles, because it makes them or last longer in battle and things. They don't break down. You can also increase the speed on them, like 9.4, 9.8, 10.2, 10.6. But I mean, it's incrementally. The more increases you have, the more it costs you and all those extra things. Then you have air. Air also has the same effects. You can give it, like, this one's got a +2 engine, +1 weapon, +1 reliability. This one's straight zeros. This one has zeros. So this one is basically an upgun version of this one. Like they're both interwar fighters, but this one's got more reliability, better weapons, and better engines. And if you hold over and you look at the stats, it's like 570 kilometer range, 570 kilometer range, air defense 8, air attack 9.9. Air defense 8, air attack 9. So there's a difference in that. I'm going to pause that. Close air support, naval bomber 1, interwar bombers, transport planes. Transport planes are used for paradropping. You can use them to do air supply missions. Bombers are used for, you can use them for tactical support, like close air support bombing. You can also use them for bombing logistics or strategic bombing. Naval bombers are good for going after after naval. Close air support is used for ground attacks. It can also be used for naval as well. Fighters are used basically to protect your other fighter planes, and also to go after the enemy fighters. So you intercept their bombers and go after their fighters. So, and it allows you can just go and pick around, play with what you want. It's like, oh, I want to build a bunch of bombers. Let's do that. We can do that. And you can align them so that your resources, if you know you're going to have a shortage, you'll notice too that when you have a shortage, if you don't have a shortage, it's in green. If you have a shortage, it's in yellow. And it shows you that your lack of resources is having a 32.5% penalty on the efficiency of its production. So if you had all of the rubber for these trucks, it would actually be built better. And you could go and trade for enough rubber to get that so that you could get rid of that yellow penalty if you wanted. The same with this one. You can also move them around. So if you had let's say you only had like 6 rubber available to you, and you didn't need so many trucks, you could put them last on the list, so they would still have a shortage of rubber, whereas these ones would be met by their requirements. And you can move them around basically to assign how the resources get distributed to them. So when there's suddenly a shortage of steel, if we get to the bottom and we've got no steel left, like there's cobalt shortages down here, or steel for these ones. These ones don't even have any dockyards assigned to them. Now, this is where you choose what equipment you're going to build from your military factories. It also happens to be what your dockyards are going to build too. In Italy's case, it comes with a bunch of ships already pre-built, and some of them have a built amount. You'll notice it shows the amount of production, and it'll move across. For some of these ones like 19.26, it's going to zip across 19 times in a day, because they're building one every hour, right? So it's like one in a little bit, so it's going to move. But something like a tank, where it's only going, you're building 2 a month, it's going to take a few days to slowly progress across, and when it gets to the end, it jumps back to the beginning, and this will go up by 1. Now this number here, this is telling us that we have a surplus of 20 light tanks. This number is telling us that we need 5 tanks for reinforcements of infantry equipment. This is telling us that we need 7 support equipment for reinforcements. We have no surplus of interwar bombers because we haven't been building them for a while. We have 6 close air support sitting in reserves. We have 126 trucks that are sitting in reserves that are stockpiled. They can be used. We can use them to transport supply to our troops. We could use them to build motorized troops, things like that. So this is what that column means. This tells us how many are being produced per day or per month based on the current rate of production. Now, the lower part will have all of your ships and ships that are being built. Now you'll notice that some of these ones, like this one, already have some production built on them. They're like already a quarter done, and it says it's going to be finished on August 2nd, 1940. If I wanted to build a second one, I could do that. I could just hit the plus, and once this one gets finished, this will drop down to a 1, and it will then suddenly continue building another one of these Conti di Cavour classes. The other thing that's useful here, and I like to do this, is you can assign which group you want it to be built into. So I can pick like Squadron Naval 1, for instance, and this one's going to go to Squadron Naval 1, and this one's going to go to Squadron Naval 1, and this one's going to go to Squadron Naval 1. Hey, you see a theme here? Squadron Naval 1. Squadron Naval 1. And what'll happen is when they get built, they'll just join Squadron Naval 1, which I believe is this big fleet right down here, Squadron Naval 1. So they'll join all these battleships, and this will be even bigger fleet. The Mistrali class, that's Squadron Naval 1, another Mistrali class. Calvi class is a sub. I don't want subs going into the Squadron Naval, so I'll put them in Gruppo Submergibili, which is, submergibles. And I could go ahead and say, look, I want to build 6 subs. So I can just pump that up. So once this is finished, now what's going to happen is some of these are going to build. This one's going to build 2, and once it's done, it's going to start another one because I told it to do 2 of them. Once it's done that second one, this one's going to disappear. It's going to basically get dropped, and these 2 will become free. And what's going to happen is they're going to go look and go, oh, this one's got an assigned one, and this one's got an assigned one. So they'll suddenly jump in here and here, and these 2 will suddenly start being produced automatically. So you can queue things up at the bottom, and then when your dockyards are finished, they'll just move on to the next ones. Or alternatively, if you wanted to, let's say, after this one was done, you wanted to finish this one faster, you could actually go like that. And once these 2 are done, it's going to jump to the next one in the list. So these 2 would fill up, and 4 factories would start building on this ship. And once it's done, then those 4 factories would be transferred down to wherever they would go. If you haven't got them assigned, if there's no assigned spots, you'll get a warning that'll pop up here, and you can then click on it. It'll take you over here, and you can say, okay, I want these to build convoys. You'll notice no convoys are being built. If you want to build convoys, you can do that. You can pick convoys and throw it on there too. And it'll just keep building convoys as long as you've got, dockyards assigned to doing it. And you'll notice that for the capital ships, like the battleships, you can only get 5 naval dockyards building on them. For the heavy cruisers and light cruisers, you can get up to 10. And for the destroyers, you can also get up to 10. And for the convoys, you can have up to 15 dockyards building convoys. Subs, you can have up to 10. So there are limits as well. There's this button for naval repair queue. You can choose how many of your naval dockyards are used for repair. So currently it's got 3 that are allocated for it. Now currently there's no ships needing repair, but if one of them became damaged and needed to be repaired, it would go and it would become allocated to this. So one of these 11 would stop being assigned to whatever it was doing and would suddenly go to repairing the other ship. Now if you don't want it to do that, you can go in here and you can drop the value down to 0. Or if you want more, you can go ahead and say I want 6 available to be repaired. So if 6 ships get damaged, 6 will come off of your front line and be used for repairing. You can also set the order for them as well. So Latium is first, and then Anzio and Sardinia, but you can change the order of them. Like you can toggle the ship queue pan to naval base. So not sure what that does actually. But if they were there, it would show them in the list. I think this is the queue and the order of how they get utilized. Yeah. I'd have to look that one up. I've never used it really that much. I just let the things repair themselves when they get damaged. But, if you're really into naval and want to get into that, that's your thing. You can look it up. It's in the wiki, sure, somewhere. But that's basically the gist of the production tab. It's, building things, adding things, assigning your free things. If you have free military civil things available, it's going to tell you that. And it's going to say, hey, look, you got free military factories. And until we assign all 19 of these, it's not going to, I'll move this one up so it's with the others. I'm going to say, okay, look, I'm going to do that. Now all 19, and that icon disappeared. It's gone. And this is going to tell us that we have insufficient resources. Sometimes you're just going to build without the resources that you need. If it gets too short, some of these production rates will drop to 0. You won't get any production. It'll just be, you've got too much of a shortage across your country and there's no spares available anywhere, and it will actually stop production of some of your things. So at that point you may want to trade for stuff, but yeah, like right now we're got a pretty big shortage on rubber, but make do. So we build our interwar bombers, our close air support, and our trucks a little bit slower than we would like, but they're still building. All right, that's the production tab. Thanks for tuning in.